Today we're going to work on an art project that is a fall setting with trees. So the first thing we're going to do is get our supplies. I'm going to use just regular white computer paper. Feel free to use any kind of paper you have, including loose leaf, construction paper, anything that's fairly light in color so the colors can be seen. Because this is a fall themed picture, you want to use markers, crayons, or paints, even colored pencils, but you want to sort of keep them in the fall color variety. So you want some browns, some greens, some reds, some yellows, and some orange, and some blue for sky. So the first thing we want to do is we want to take our pencil and make some beginning lines. So basically this picture is going to be sort of like you're looking up from underneath some trees. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start at the bottom of our paper and we're going to come up with some tree trunks. And because from the perspective of underneath, everything narrows as it gets to the top of the paper, or as you look up, you're going to make your line sort of come to a point. So we're going to start with anywhere on the bottom that you want. We're going to start right here, hold my paper down, and I'm just going to make, it doesn't have to be a straight line because trees are not straight. I'm just going to make a line going up my paper. Then when I get to a good stopping point, which is not going off the paper, because remember, by the time when you're looking up from underneath trees, you won't be able to see the top from underneath. So I'm just going to close out this trunk, give it a little size, and follow. That's one tree trunk. Then I'm going to do another one, maybe a bit smaller here. And remember, straight lines aren't necessary because trees aren't straight. They have those little ridges to them. And then one more that doesn't actually stop going off the side of our page, but getting more narrow. Okay, so it doesn't really look like trees yet, but we're just starting. So once we have our trees down, which is the hardest part of this, I'm going to take my brown marker or brown crayon, and I'm just going to go over those lines. And again, because they don't have to be perfect, I don't have to be perfect in covering these lines either. Your next step is to begin to give these lines, these tree trunks, some texture. So I'm going to move on to my crayon. Remember, I'm using crayons and markers. I'm going to make trunks are round. So the way that we show that they're round in the picture is to make curved lines instead of straight lines straight across, because that accounts for the shape of the tree. So I'm going to start by making some curved lines at different points along the tree. And this really just gives the idea that this is not a straight line, that these are sort of tubes or columns, kind of have texture. Now I'm going to use that very same crayon and go off and make some branches for my tree. And again, they don't have to have any certain shape. This is just what you are able to see up into the sky when you're looking at the trees. Pretty weird looking trees, huh? So I'm now going to take a lighter color brown and I'm just lighter color than I've already used, and I'm just very lightly gonna color in the tree. Now I want those dark areas that I went over to really show, so I'm just going to go back over. Remember, curved lines, not straight. And again, color in my trunks. All right, so now I'm ready to start with my leaves. So if you're looking above, you're just going to see the surrounding shape of the leaves. So I'm going to use my crayon, and I'm going to start with yellow because that's the lightest color, and I'm just going to make some curved tree leaf shapes that I can then follow. Remember, they're not perfect because it won't be perfect when you're looking up at the trees. Okay. And then, so I'm doing it with my yellow because that's the lightest color and it's easier to put darker colors over that. And then I'm going to color in. So what I decided is that sort of this will be my yellow side, and then we're going to blend into orange and then red leaves. So I'm going to start with my yellow side, and I'm going to color in my yellow set of trees, or my yellow leaves, being careful not to go too far into the trunk, although it's completely fine to color over the branches because that happens when you're looking up into trees. You can't see all the leaves, or the leaves cut off the branches. So now we're going to go over this color. Like, I know it looks like lines. We're going to go over this color with little sort of curly circles and marker. We just want to get the color down. And again, I can cover my branches a bit and get all my yellow down there. Now when you are coloring, or when you're looking up at trees rather, sometimes you can see sky in between. So I'm going to pick out a couple of areas and use my blue to be like bits of sky being seen through the trees. So I'm going to start over here, and I'm going to color this blue because of the sky, and then I want a streak of a little chunk of sky there, and I can see a little chunk of sky here in between the trees. And then you're going to take your blue and just begin to outline like what is the end of the tree, what is the sky. We're going to come back in and do the sky in a darker blue as well, so that we can have some contrast in our coloring. And then down here is going to be sky too, because remember, we're looking up. And it's really just to give you a quick outline of where the sky is as opposed to your tree. So now we're going to move on to our orange colors. I'm going to start with my crayons, and this was my yellow area. This is going to, and I'm going to again give it sort of circular shapes, but I'm going to start in with the orange. Remember, this is a fall tree scene, so there would be lots of orange in there, reds. So we're going over that, and you can be press some areas darker, some areas lighter. Maybe some down here, and there can be little specks of the orange in your yellow. And then I'm going to come back in with a slightly redder orange and get some texture in there. Coming in more circular without being clearly a circle, but just sort of loopy. And then I'm going to come in with my red color and really come in and define the leaves. Now these are my crayons, so I'm actually going to add to the color by actually using markers as well. I just wanted to get my first bits of lines down, so when I start with my markers, here's my orange, and I'm going back in over my orange areas. And now I'm going to come in with my reds. And you can use paints. You can use colored pencils. And I'm going to go through and use a different red marker and color that in. And that just gives a little bit of texture to the swirls that we've made, making it sort of easier to find the tree and the leaves. And it helps us blend the colors. And my trees are looking pretty pale, so I'm just going to come back through with a darker crayon of brown and just give them a little bit more color. And now I'm going to come through with my yellow and really work that area. adding some yellow to the red area and to the orange area just so those colors blend more. Making sure I pay attention too close to the tree because anything you see, you would be able to see from the trunk out. And now I'm going to add more color to my sky. I'm going to use a different marker and sort of like from where the tree is, really pay attention to the space that's left so I can make it seem like the trees are really hanging out sort of in the sky. So drawing from the, from the tree trunk and over here, anywhere that there's sky. And I'm also going to come in with a darker blue. That's sort of more of a turquoise. And I'm going to use the darkest blue on the outside just to give some texture to the sky. And I'm going to go into my crayons and get a blue color that's somewhere between the two blue markers, and I just want to add some depth over the white bits. And pretty much you can put as much color, detail, saturation in as you want, meaning going over things and making them a little darker so they're more dramatic if you can't quite see them. And essentially there you have it, a view from underneath trees in the fall season. I hope you have enjoyed it. Please post your results so I can see.